we need to talk about our relationship. That's because everything in Solidworks relies on relationships between the features you've drawn. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my ongoing series of Solidworks tutorials. Today, like most days, I'm starting it in a meaningless, empty void. And that's because I want to show you how to draw things and add and delete relationships between them. I'm going to come up here as usual to my Sketch tab, and I'm going to click Sketch. I'll choose one of the planes, and I'm going to just click my line tool because that's as good a place to start as any. I'm going to come down here and snap to my origin point, and you can see this yellow box to the kind of lower right of my pencil. It looks like two lines intersecting. That's showing the relationship that you're about to create, and in this case that is a coincident relationship between the end of this line and the origin point. Now you can also see it when it snaps to 90 degrees there, that it shows that yellow box with a vertical line. That's showing a vertical relationship. It'll show a horizontal line right here when it snaps to 0 degrees. I'm going to snap to 90, and now it shows these two green boxes showing your relationships. I'll talk about those in a little bit. Let's say we wanted a 90-degree line, but we accidentally misclicked somewhere out in the field, and then we did it again, or we were in a hurry, and we just sort of stuck this other line at a bit of a skewed angle. I'm going to hit Escape real fast to get out of the line tool. You can add relationships to these lines to fully define your sketch. You can see down here in the lower right that the sketch is underdefined, and you can also see that because these lines and the points between them are blue. For instance, this point right there is blue because it has no idea how long this line is. Likewise, these are blue because the lengths are unknown, the angles are unknown, the distance from the origin to these points is unknown. Those are all things that are required for your sketch to be fully defined. I can mouse over any of these relationships and it will tell me what it is. In this case, line 1 is vertical, and you'll notice that that note disappears after a few seconds. So if you don't read it fast enough, you have to go back and mouse over it again. In this case, it's a coincident relationship between point 1 of this line and the origin of part 24. Now I can come up here to this button, which is my Display Delete Relations button. This is in the Sketch tab, and it's a little bit left of center at the top of the screen. When I click that, it opens a dialog box just like pretty much every other button, and it shows all of the relationships that are shown on the feature of the part. Well, let's say that I messed up and maybe I didn't want this to be a vertical relationship. I can click that button, it shows it right here, and I can actually choose to delete it. Once I do that and I click my green check mark, now that line is blue instead of black because it is underdefined. It has no idea where in space that line is supposed to be, and I can actually click the line and drag it around and reposition it. I've clicked off in the field, so nothing is highlighted at the moment, and you will notice that, like many of the other buttons in the program, the Display Delete Relations button has a drop-down menu. So when I click that, you've got a couple of other options: Add Relation and Fully Defined Sketch. Fully Defined Sketch is one that I would like to talk about right now because it's kind of a dangerous button. I could click this, it will open a dialog box just like everything else. I have the options of either all entities in the sketch or selected entities, in which case if I clicked this I would have to add which ones I want fully defined. But this button is dangerous because if I click all entities in the sketch and hit my green check mark, then it will define everything. All of it turns black. I've got dimensions for everything, and yay, everything's hunky-dory, right? Whoever gets the print to make this part is going to have all these weird angles and oddly specific dimensions. Like this one is 2.763138088 inches. They're going to look at that and they're going to wonder about your mental stability. So I'm going to hit undo because I do not want to fully define this sketch. I'm going to come up here to my drop down again, and I'm going to hit Add Relations. Right now it doesn't have any entities selected because I hit escape a couple of times just to make sure nothing was grabbed like a point. And I can choose this line, and it will give me a variety of relations that are likely for that sort of feature. And in this case, if I wanted it to be a vertical line, I could tell it to be vertical. And of course it has then skewed everything else. No problem. I can click the green check mark, and now I show that that is a black line with that vertical relationship again. Let's go back, and let's say that I wanted this line to be horizontal. I could choose that, and it will snap it around, potentially fixing a mistake that I made by misclicking out in the field. You can also choose multiple features such as this line, and it will give you a few more relationship options here. For instance, we could do perpendicular here. If I had chosen this line and that line, I could have chosen for them to be parallel. I would have gotten the exact same thing. You'll also notice equal, so let's actually do that. I'm going to hit escape. I'll add relations, and I could choose this line and choose equal, and it will lock them together to make sure that they are equal lengths. And now when I go to Smart Dimension, for instance, I can click that, and when I change this line, it will also change the other. So now if I click that, it shows the exact same dimensions. And of course it gives me my make a dimension driven error because I've already basically got that dimension defined. So I'm going to hit cancel there. Now the only thing turning that line blue is the fact that it doesn't know how far away from the origin point it is, and that has to do with the measurement of this line. Let's go ahead and make that 2.5 inches. Now everything is fully defined, as you can see down here in the bottom right hand side of the screen. I can also come in and add features such as fillets to this, and let's say I want a 250 thousandths fillet, and it may mess things up when you go between two lines that have certain relationships. So I could, for instance, choose this corner, and yeah, it gives me an error that says the segment being filleted has a midpoint or equal relationship to a different line. In this case, equal to that one. And basically it's just asking, are you sure you want to do this? Because the relationship might be deleted. So I'm going to say yes. And I'll do the same thing over here. It'll give me the same error. And I can just go ahead and click my green check mark. And now you can see it just adds a whole bunch of other relationships here. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to zoom to fit by clicking the F key. And we can actually mouse over some of these other things. So this is the arc that is forming the fillet, and it's saying that it's tangent to the arc and line 1. Likewise down here, this point, it's actually for the point, not the arc. That point is tangent to the arc and line 2. Likewise, you've got this one tangent to arc 1, line 2, and that one over there. What else came in? This one is an intersection of line 3. Not really sure what that relationship's about. I think that might be this apparent intersection out here. And then we have the equal radius between the two arcs because each of these fillets has the same 250 thousandths radius. Alright, I want to show you one last thing. I'm going to get out of the fillet command. Let's say I wanted to make this a little bent U bracket. I would do that with a sweep, and in all of the other videos that I've made where I've done a sweep, I have actually drawn a sketch on the end of the line. But I want to show you something. If I come to Features and choose Swept Boss Base, it's choosing the sketch that I just made, and I've always been using Sketch Profile, which would let you draw a circle or a rectangle or a triangle or an elephant or whatever. But I could just hit Circular Profile, And that will give me basically the most common thing that you would be doing with a sweep, which is making a bent rod. And then from here, I can change my diameter to whatever I want. Let's say I needed that to be 1/8 of an inch in diameter instead. Then it just makes it a little bit chunkier. Or maybe I want to go smaller and it's 50 thousandths wire. Look at that. There we go. Now I can click my green check mark. It does my sweep for me. And it saves you a little bit of time because you don't have to make a sketch. I'm just in the habit of making a sketch on the end of my sweeps. Mainly because it's more versatile. I can do any shape that I want, but I also wanted to show you how to do it in case you need to do this in the real world. Let me show you another good example of using relationships, especially the equal relationship. I've got a center rectangle here. I'm going to snap it to the origin point. And it's pretty common to have to design things just by the seat of your pants. So you know that it has to be roughly this size and shape, but you're not entirely sure of the dimensions. I've clicked that in there. I've hit escape so that nothing is highlighted. I'm going to go to add relations, and I'm going to choose this line and that line and say that they are equal in size. That way, no matter what, if I change this, let's say to 8 inches, it's going to constantly keep this to be the same size. So I can then go ahead and change that to 5 inches if I wanted to. It'll shrink everything down. It'll keep the same relationships. I'm going to go ahead and extrude this out a bit so that you can see what we're doing. I'm going to just make it 1/2 inch thick, and I'm going to put some holes in the corners here. And we'll just kind of stick some stuff in here. It doesn't really matter what size we're doing. I'm going to go to Smart Dimension, and I'm going to dimension one of them. We'll say that's a 1/2 inch hole. And then I'm going to hit escape again to get out of anything that's highlighted. I'll add relationship again. I'll choose all of my circles. And then I'm going to say that they are also equal in size. So now all of them are 1/2 inch. And I didn't have to dimension every single one of them. I still have to dimension the distance to the side, and I'll do that in a second. But I want to demonstrate that I can double click that, and now I can say 250, and it changes all of them. So that's always fantastic, especially if you have a massive grid of holes. It doesn't take too much time to go in and click all of your holes and say that they're all equal, rather than going through and dimensioning and typing every single one. I've gone ahead and dimensioned each of these hole locations from the side, and that's going to lock that location in regardless of the size of this square. So I'm going to extrude cut through that whole thing. There we go. Now we've got holes all the way through it. But now I can go in here and change anything about this. I'll go to Edit Sketch here, and now I'll say that that's 10 inches. It keeps everything square. When I exit the sketch, my holes are still going to be 1/2 inch in from the sides because that's how I dimension them. I can come in here and edit the sketch on this one, and when I click that, I can change my hole size to, let's say, 3/8 of an inch. These all still have an equal relationship, so it changes all of them. All I have to do is exit the sketch. This way I can really design on the fly, and I don't have to spend a lot of time redimensioning things. I want to show you a couple of other things. I'm going to do another center rectangle, and I'm just going to put that right in here. I've mentioned it in passing a couple of times already in this video that you should hit escape before clicking add relations. The reason is this rectangle is still active, and if I click add relation, then it chooses every line and point on the rectangle, but it barely gives you anything. It basically only allows you to fix it in place, and that's not what you need. So I'm going to actually hit escape first. Now you can see the rectangle is darker blue, And now when I click Add Relations, now that nothing is active, it allows me to select certain lines. So again, I'm going to make these lines equal in length. And I want to show you that for a very specific reason. So let's go ahead and dimension this. I don't remember what my big rectangle is, but I'll just say that's 6 inches. So now I'm going to exit this sketch. I'm going to hit Escape a couple of times. I'm going to make another sketch with some more circles. I'm going to make some more holes. I'll choose that plane, and I'm going to snap my circles to the corners of this center rectangle here. Now keep in mind this center rectangle has the exact same center as my other one. I can now go ahead and escape out of these, and I'm going to hit Escape so everything is dark blue again. I'm going to say Add Relations and choose all my holes again. And there we go. I'm going to say they're equal, so they're all the same size now. Let me go ahead and smart dimension one of those so that we get a hole size. I'll make it 375 as well, so it's the same size as these others. Now you can probably see where I'm going with this. I did not actually have to individually dimension each of these hole locations from the side of the part. I could have snapped them to this center rectangle, and then all I would need to do is go in and change the dimensions on the rectangle. Let me go ahead and extrude these. There we go. And let's say that instead of wherever this is, this would be 2 inches in from each side. If I had wanted them to be 1/2 inch in from each side, I would just make this rectangle, the second center rectangle, be the appropriate dimensions. So I'm going to go in here and edit this sketch. All I have to do is change one dimension, and I'll make it something maybe 7.5. Yeah. So that'll still have both sets of holes. But when I exit this sketch, now my holes are still snapped to the corners, and I only had to change one dimension to get that done. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. And if you'd like to help make these videos, please consider supporting me over on Patreon or down below as a YouTube member. As always, if you have any questions about this or any other SolidWorks or machining topic, leave those down in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. So that's fantastic.